Welcome to Projecting Overview podcast brought to you by Tolumide, and today I have with me
Comes and Sinan.
How are you guys doing today?
Not bad, all good.
Yeah,
Just
really
here to
glad to
support.
have you here today. I can see the smile and all of that.
It's what it is what we do.
Yeah.
Are you feeling with the COVID and that? What's going on with that?
I mean, from my environment, because I work in the health sector, it's big. But we thank God, not in family or friends.
Yeah. I'll just have to say, you know what, everyone? Whatever you have to do it. Just stay safe. So,
Today we're going to talk about identity, and I feel like that's something that every one of us can resonate and relate to.
yeah.
You identify as Sinan, that's what I know you as. I identify as Tolu, that's what you know me as. You identify as Kunz, that's what we know you as well. So
Right.
what do you think identity is? How would you define identity? What's your definition of it?
I think for me personally, identity is it's your culture, your background, your character. It all plays part in who you are, you know. So the life lessons you've got in your life, your experience, more or less, it makes who you are. So that's your identity, innit? But I think identity can always be changed because it's a mental state thing. You've always got to upgrade yourself. You can't just go into one direction in life and just go with that flow, innit? Because you've always got different experiences that's going to come up, good, bad, sad. So in overall, I think identity is just something where you can just change throughout in life. So
Wow. Good. I'll just listen to your part. What do you think identity is? And I'll just come back to what you said about
I mean, Sinan just said something that is deep, but again, in agreeing with you, identity is that thing that makes us peculiar, isn't it? That thing that defines us, you know, who you are, you can relate with your culture, your personality, your values, your beliefs. What did you grow up knowing? But what caught me what you said there is identity can change.
Yeah.
That's deep, and that's a
that's
big
what I was
thing.
thinking as well. When you said can change, so
Yeah, and I wanted to build on that a little bit. For someone like me, I was born and brought up in Africa, in West Africa, Nigeria, and came here when I was 18. And somewhat my identity changed. You know, I had to become something else. I had to become not something else per se like that, but I mean, I sound different when I hear me now compared to where I was when I was younger. You know, that's changed. You know, my etiquette, my values, my moral values, or my moral compass, the way I relate with people. But fortunately for me, again, I could put it this way: I went to a boarding school back home where it's diverse. So it's more diverse here, where I'm mixed with a different variety of people, and I didn't have that luxury at home. But it also could be a blessing and a curse at the same time.
wow.
that's
You know, just you just blew it. And when you said something about change, and I actually agree with what you said, because I'm thinking identity is something you identify with, just like what you said. And this is probably based on the people around us, our environment, the society, and all of that. But when you now then talk about the change, and just based on what you said as well in terms of change, being raised in Africa, and that's the same thing as me. The way we would do things back home is quite different from the way things have been done in the United Kingdom. So, what do you think? Is it do you think there's a lot of pressure? Because I'm thinking, do you have to adapt? Well, I don't want to use the word pressure. Do you think it's more of adaptability?
you know what it's told us?
Yeah.
It's influence.
Okay.
It's what you see is what you get. So one person might be the same person that you might know for 10 years.
Yeah.
You put them in a different environment.
Yeah.
They might get influenced by what they see. So in terms of I wouldn't really say pressure. It can be pressure, mental pressure.
Yeah.
They might be able to feel like, if I don't do this, I might not be accepted.
Yeah.
So I need to change my identity.
So, do you think it's a good or bad? Or is it
Depends on the situation in life. Depends on the situation. Maybe what they're in, the environment might be good. So them changing might be the better for them in the future. But like I said, it can be bad as well, because if the environment is bad and they feel like if I don't do this, I'm going to be the one eating in this area. So
Okay. I'm thinking about something right now when you just said that, it's about, I think that being able to identify with something means, and just what you said about influence as well, I think, it could be in a good or bad way, but at the same time, I still think, for us to move forward in life, we need to have an influence, which actually would influence. I don't know if that's right, but the one I'm trying to think about in my head is moving forward in life. That means we need to change our identity, basically.
in a way, because
But does that not end up changing who we are as a person?
it does, and it also changes your culture. Because what you pick up from your parents, you're changing that. and then you're gonna change and give something different to your kids. So that's gonna keep changing and changing. If you can't keep your identity and keep it in the form of structure, you're gonna be passing on something completely different. So you're not only changing yourself now, you're changing the next generation. And not even maybe next generation, maybe it might extend there, because it just depends on what you're doing with your life at the moment.
Okay. What? Yeah.
I was just agreeing with you there, Sinan. Thanks for that, man. Bless you. And it's deep. We talk about pressure. We talk about adapting to environment. We talk about environment, toxic.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we find ourselves in different kind of environments. You know, and we lose our moral compass, as I said, or our beliefs or value. You know, we live in a generation now where some people have beliefs, religious beliefs. Some don't. You know, and that can be deemed something a different generation will find offensive.
Yeah.
You know, especially maybe in the faith community or in the demographics generally of the generations that are coming up now. Having said all of that, you mentioned, you know, losing values or losing our identity and what our parents or what we saw in the culture being watered down as opposed to something else to the next generation. So for someone like me now, I got two boys, and it gets deeper. You know, I look at the way my kids talk to me. I didn't have that opportunity to relate with my father that way. Somewhat, I've lost certain culture, but I've gained somewhat a different cultural belief where I see. I mean, I see what my dad we talk, we negotiate, but I can't tell my dad certain things. As you all couldn't do in such a parents, you know. Or you get a quick power or something, you know, or you need out there put your hands up, you know. There's discipline, and there is still discipline now in the family, my family, but it's different. You know, the kids, this generation are very different. They talk differently. The lingo is different. The emotions are different. I was talking to one of my sons the other day, and we're talking, and he thinks his school is failing him because he's an intelligent kid. I mean, we call him the bookworm of the house, but the situation then led to him being emotional. And where I was telling him, son, you've got to ask for what you want. You got to go demand it from the teachers, and you cannot let them fail you. And he got so hurt, and he was crying. Imagine, I think 3 of us here grew up back home. So imagine you talking to your dad and you start crying for no reason. You would have got beat, wouldn't you? So I was like, son, why are you crying? Don't channel your energy into that. Don't cry. We cry when we lose something. We cry when you're being smart. We cry when something hurts us. But you don't want to project this sort of energy out there. You know, it's good to cry, but in your own closet and come back out of it and bounce back. And he was in tears, and I felt for him, and I went hard on him on top of it just to build him.
Because, like I said, people express emotions differently. So maybe for your son, crying might be even happiness. He might even realize what he did wrong. So I feel like in terms of emotion, we shouldn't really pressure people to like be like this. Because if you structure someone, don't cry here, don't do that there, they're not going to be able to express themselves. So when they're not able to express themselves, they're going to be into someone different.
That's correct.
So I feel like if they do cry, it's up to them. But like I said, crying, obviously, for him, maybe it might make him feel better. But overall, what I can say is just in terms of identity, it's such a thing where it's such a personal level. Like everyone can only speak for themselves, and that's the sad reality for it. And I just feel like when you're looking at it, you don't know what people are going to turn into, because everyone just picks up different stuff.
Just bouncing off of what you guys are saying, right? I'm just picking up saying that this is what I picked up from it. Like, identity can be evolving. Can you say that?
Yes,
you can.
Totally.
Everything's evolving.
Everything's like moves from one time to one time. Like what you just said, like back in the day, you get smacked. If you can't, literally, you can't cry in front of your parents because they will see that as a sign of weakness. And even our society now, men are not allowed to like show their emotions. That's some sort of identity.
Because now, if you do, you're seen as weak.
That's the thing. So, but looking at that now, like, I'm thinking, yes, it's evolving. So where can we then say, do you know what? In terms of culture, for example, you know, like 10, 20 years ago, the way people would dress is quite different from the way people are dressing now. The way people would talk, even slangs and linguists,
the music,
back in the day, is so different from the way people would actually express it. So where do we then put a point to it to say, do you know what? This is something I value. This is something I cherish. This is something I want to keep within my family, within my society or within our community.
You know what it is?
How then do we go about that?
You can't, because the sad reality is you might hold your morals, but your brother doesn't. You can't do nothing about it. Only he needs to realize, or she needs to realize what they're doing. So it's only left for them to decide what they're gonna do, and that's the sad reality of it. You can't do nothing. As time goes by, what I've only noticed is people are slowly and slowly losing their morals and losing the basic principles of humanity. They're not caring anymore. Like, look at technology. We're in a situation where it's so fast now. People can't even wait a minute.
Yeah, that's 24 hours.
Yeah, that's changed everything. So in terms of identity, it's not just even identity anymore. Everything is changing. And like I said, people can't even wait for a minute anymore because they are the situation where everything is just received in a click. So once people's mentality now picks that up, they're used to getting what they want right there and then. And if you told them to wait for a minute, commotion, stress, problems start happening. So I think, so I just think this is such a personal level where the person needs to know themselves first. If they don't know who they are, they're not going to be able to move forward. And they're just going to be staying in the same lane forever.
Okay. That's getting interesting now.
That's very, very intelligent. Thank you very much for that. And it goes back to that. I'm firstly going to talk about values and family values. And I also think it's important. I mean, we know that saying that show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. Show me your parents, I'll tell you who you are. Whatever it's been embedded in us as we grow up, or as we grow up with our parents or in our lifestyle, we don't lose our values totally, regardless what it is. However, certain things diminish because we disagree with certain things our parents have done. But Sinan was extremely correct when he said, you know, I could have one value and my sister or brother could have a different one to me, and we may conflict. But I think it's also important that family values are instilled and embedded in us. And when we get as family, you know, we put certain things away and we do family. 100%. And then it's love. You know, and it's all about love. We love ourselves, forgetting whatever it is, and deal with each other as one. Next thing I want to talk about is identity with personality. Having to know oneself, which was what Sinan said there as he rounded up. It's imperative we know ourselves, because how do you relate? How do you put out who you are? How do you get out there? How do you get in the marketplace when you don't know who you are? How do you get into the community when you don't know who you are? How do you relate with your brothers or sisters when you don't know who you are? You know, it's a big problem. And first is tackling self, knowing self, knowing who you are, know your strength, know your gifts. You know, your strength.
I don't want to cut you off, but I was just thinking, when you talk about knowing yourself, do you not think? And I feel like I've had this conversation in the past when, you know, one of my friends said you need to know yourself. But then, does that not, knowing oneself, is that not influenced by the people around you? Sometimes, you know, you might want to know who you are, but then it's like the pressure that you get around you might not want you to be who you are, and then you get to like identify with what everyone around you is kind of like pointing out.
It's true. And like I said, that is only down to the person. You either don't care and you move forward, or you care and you stay at the same lane. That's how simple it is, and you can't do nothing about it. It's so complex, but it's so simple. Like, it's a simple road, but that simple road is so hard in terms of emotions and thoughts and process. That's why most can't do it, and that's why they suffer for a long, long time. And then once they come to a certain age, it can be a year later, it can be 50 years later, then they realize, you know what, I should have been who I am, because that's how I express myself, that's who I am. But because I didn't want to be that odd one out, I had to put myself in a certain shell and not be who I am, and that's...
Okay, I'll just think